This conference will now be recorded.
So at least 2, 3, possibly 4 new people, Rick.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Welcome everybody to the 2nd of November, day before election day, high risk, recurrent and advanced prostate cancer group. And we have postponed the Prostate Cancer Foundation review until next week. Then Len and Herb will give us some highlights. But we do want to announce and welcome Herb officially to our advisory board. Well, it'll be official when he sends me a picture.
I have to send you a picture.
Right.
Yes.
So don't look for him right now because I don't have a picture to put up. But as soon as we get a picture, it'll be official. Only right now it's only official. So thank you very much, Herb, for accepting. We are delighted to have you.
I hope I can help.
I know you can. We know you can help.
You already have.
You already have. There's no help. There's no hope involved here. So Peter advises me he thinks we've got 4 new people. So which will be a lot. So let me see if I can identify. So David, we're getting. Where's my mute man? Where's my mute man?
Gentlemen, if you would, please mute yourself unless you are speaking. I will mute you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And now my official muter is in charge. So let me just see if I can identify, first of all, the people that haven't been on the call before, because we want to give you some time. So let me start. Julie, I don't think you've ever been talked to us before on behalf of your brother. Is that right?
That is true. I participate in the US2 organization prostate cancer support group here in Seattle, but okay. my group leader said we didn't have any support groups for advanced cases, so he sent me the link to your group.
Fantastic. So we're going to come back to you. I just want to identify the folks who haven't been on before, and we'll come back and we'll talk to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Jeff Hancock, have you been with us before? You're muted.
Yes, one time.
Yes, I thought so. Okay, because I recognize the name. Somebody identified as AH, and you're muted. Hello, AH.
Hello, my name's Alice Hollier, and my husband is a high-risk prostate cancer patient. And so I just found your work group and decided to dial in.
Well, that's great, Alice, and we'll come right back to you. We've got Alice, we've got Julie, who's never been on before.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who was not, this is the first time they're participating? I don't think so. I think everybody else we've got. So here's what we're going to do, and we've got a big crew, so we'll spend the first 45 minutes or so talking with Julie and with Alice. And then we'll go from there and see who needs some time today. So, and I think this is probably the first time where we've had 2 ladies.
Oh my God, 30 people, wow.
That sounded like Larry Fish. Was that Larry Fish?
No, it wasn't me. Of course, you don't know I'm here.
I haven't called my roll. I haven't done my roll call yet. So you're keeping me on my toes and we haven't even started. All right.
Blaming the victim once again. Okay, guys. Hi, everybody. And now I go mute.
Okay, thank you. Ladies, it isn't always as crazy as this when we start, but occasionally it is. We have a very good group. of guys, but what I also should tell you is we have a very knowledgeable group of guys, as you are about to find out. So, Julie, let's kick off with you. You mentioned that you're in Seattle and that you're here on behalf of your brother. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some details about your brother's situation, his age, his diagnosis, the treatment he's gotten, where he's gotten treatment, and then what questions you have, and we'll go from there.
I think I should have prepared better. It's funny, I wrote out a wonderful synopsis for something a while back, and I don't have it in front of me, and I'm still at work. So at any rate, my brother Mike is 67. We have been on just a very fast train ride the last 20 months. So he was just diagnosed 20 months ago. He was already metastatic. We are going to the wonderful Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, so we feel very blessed, and then the University of Washington. I think we have pretty great cancer care in Seattle. So we've been through many treatments, and every time we completed treatment, we go to the oncology appointment, and she comes in with that sad face and says it wasn't what we had hoped. So I think we're starting to lose a little hope. I know he definitely is. So he's been on Lupron the entire time. We have tried Abi for a month, didn't do anything. I'm sorry, we did enzalutamide for a month and didn't do anything. He was not a candidate for prostatectomy. We've done CyberKnife radiation. So we have CyberKnife here in Seattle. He has, his Gleasons are all 9s. So we started off with very high scores, level 4, advanced. He now has some tumors in his spine, 2 liver tumors in his lymph nodes. What else? So we blasted the prostate. We blasted the lymph nodes. At one point, he lost almost the ability to walk, so we blasted the ones in the spine. That was the one thing that worked. He was able to walk again. We did docetaxel. It wasn't what they hoped. And right now, we just went today, he's had his second injection of cabazitaxel plus the platinum product called carboplatin, I think.
Right.
So they're scheduling 4 to 8 injections of that. And we're going to stop after 3 and do full body scans and see where he's at. Mm-hmm. And so he's just feeling a lot worse, severe fatigue. It's almost like he feels great when we don't treat him. And then when we treat him, it just knocks him down. Cancer's a funny thing. That's a whole philosophical discussion. But
Right.
So I don't know if anybody on the call has been through all these stages. Should I be hopeful? I mean, he's got a couple mutations, but not BRCA1 or 2. But he has a couple mutations they don't have a tool yet for, they tell me. I can't remember what it's called. I'm tired. He was in the ICU last week because his electrolytes tanked because of the chemo, and we didn't catch it in time. So, I mean, it's been an exhausting month, but, I'm open to any comments, philosophical or medical or whatever. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think somebody, at least one person on this call has been through every one of the treatments you've mentioned. So, that's, we certainly have a lot of empathy, and I think, there are de novo metastatic men on this call who may not have done quite as much. I realize you're at work, but do you recall what the mutations are that they found? And I'm assuming that these are somatic mutations. In other words, they sent away some blood or some tumor tissue to be analyzed. Do you know that? Do you know about that?
They just did a liver biopsy about 45 days ago, and I saw the report, but I don't have it in front of me. What in my non-medical viewpoint, it appeared that there was nothing terribly striking about it. And we have not met with her since we did that biopsy, but knowing her, I think I know her, and what she's going to say is, the oncologist that is, she's going to say, I want to finish this chemo, and then we would look at other tools. They're very linear at SCCA. They follow prescriptive standard treatment. Although she's the head of the mutation genetics, she speaks internationally, so we trust her. But no, I don't know the exact terms. Sorry.
I think that I figured this out pretty early on. It must be Tia Higano that he's seeing. Is that right?
Heather Chang, Cheng.
Okay.
Just as good. Better.
I think better. If he's seeing
what?
Good choice.
If he's seeing Heather Chang, then that's better than seeing Tia Higano. And
you guys know Seattle people. I love it.
We know people all across the country here. But we like Heather Chang. We did a webinar. She did a webinar about 3 or 4 weeks ago that we co-sponsored. She's a very good doc. I don't think you can do a lot better. I don't think she's super linear. I do think she thinks outside the box, more so than Tia Higano, who's one of the other female GU medical oncologists in Seattle.
Okay.
But what I do think is that if anything was actionable in there, then she probably, as you say, would have raised it, but we'd still like to see that report. So my guess is she sent it to Foundation Medicine, although she could have sent it elsewhere. And if you can send us a copy of the report, we can help you understand it.
Fabulous. Okay.
So we'll tell you how to do that before we get done. In terms of outcome, everybody's different. You've got to try and find something that he responds to here. It would be really good to know if there are certain measures that might make him receptive to some of the immunotherapy drugs, but again, Cheng is going to be on top of that. Things like mutation burden and microsatellite instability. This doesn't mean a lot to you, but these are measures which make you eligible for certain drugs. So again, we'd like to take a look at that and see what we see. The fact that the Mets are spreading this quickly is not a great sign. And the fact that she's tried all of the sort of somewhat conventional things is positive from the standpoint of the standard of care, but negative that he's not responding. So with that, I want to throw it open because there's so many people. Let me start with Peter, because Peter's just been through docetaxel plus carboplatin, which is a little similar to the cabazitaxel plus carboplatin, but he's done carboplatin. So Peter, why don't you kick off with Julie?
Yeah, I'm sorry that Mike is going through this. It's a situation where the cure sometimes is worse than the disease, but in his situation, because he's got liver mets, it's something to be very concerned about. As Rick said, I just finished 6 rounds of docetaxel along with carboplatin because I have a genetic mutation, a BRCA mutation somatically, plus another germline mutation. And it was a rough ride. I mean, I won't deny it. It was a rough ride. A number of us on this call were either going through presently chemo or have gone through it. And I've done surgery. I've done several kinds of radiation, but the chemo was the most rugged ride I took. But I made it through. At number 5, I called my oncologist up in California because I live in Hawaii and said, do I really need to do 6 rounds? And he convinced me that that was the way to go. And I'm glad I did it, but it was debilitating. That said, has he had any response in terms of his PSA going down, or does PSA just stay up at a high number with these treatments?
Boy, let's see. Once it went down one time, and I think it was after the docetaxel, and then it's continued to go up. We went from 12 to 60 in the last 2 months, but he didn't have any treatment at all in the last 2 months except Lupron.
Right. So he's done. He tried enzalutamide, but it did not work. He's tried abiraterone, Zytiga as well.
No, Heather said no. She was going to move on to a second-line chemo. I think she felt it wouldn't be effective.
Okay, I will throw this out. I mean, we're not doctors here, so we can't diagnose, we can't recommend treatment, this and that, but we can tell you what we've done. You can ask Heather this. Along with my chemotherapy, I was on a second-line anti-androgen too, and I still take it. It's called Nubeqa, Nubeqa, and it's put out by Bayer. And I've been able to tolerate it real well. It took all the way through my chemo and helped bring my numbers down. It didn't bring them down undetectable. It brought them down pretty damn low. And but I don't have the same disease. I don't have liver mets. I don't have the bone mets that Mike has. So I'm just throwing it out there. You could talk to her about that, whether Mike could tolerate Nubeqa. She'll probably come back and tell you he doesn't qualify for it, but there's ways to get around it. If Bayer even has a 2-month free trial program called the DUDE program, where you can just try it out and see if it works. So I'm just throwing that out because that's what I did, and it helps me and continues to help me. Yeah.
Peter, let's see if anybody else has anything they'd like to. I have a couple of ideas, but anybody else like to throw in their thoughts here? Len, I see you put your microphone.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Julie, this is Len. I'm very sorry to hear about your brother's aggressive prostate cancer. There are a lot of other men on this call with Gleason 9, myself included. I'm going to respectfully disagree with Peter and go with Heather Chang on this hormone pursuit. I kind of doubt that any other hormone therapy is going to work for your brother. It's probably time to start looking at clinical trials because I can't think of anything that's likely to be helpful in your brother's case in the way of something that's already approved. What I'm thinking, when was he first diagnosed?
About 20 months ago.
Okay, and so he's already racing through lots of different treatments with fairly quick resistance developing. Do you know anything about neuroendocrine prostate cancer? Have you ever heard that term before?
The only thing I know is that you can have a certain mutation where the cells change themselves into small cell or I think neuroendocrine type cells.
Yes, exactly. Very good. You're right. I mean, that would have to be validated with with a biopsy of the liver, which they already did, but they haven't given you results on that yet, right?
Well, I work I work in the institution where he goes for healthcare, so I printed the report. I wasn't supposed to go in and do that, but I did go in and do that. And I think the report said they didn't see any of that conversion to cell differences. I think that's what it said.
Well, that's good. And so as far as you understand the report they sent you, there's no what we call actionable mutations. Nothing for which,
no,
yeah.
The one that he has, I think, is who somebody said it's a close support cell of BRCA1 and BRCA2, but it's one that I think they haven't researched a lot yet because it's a support cell. It's like a cousin, right? But again, we haven't met with her, but I do believe, as the gentleman said, that if she saw something, she would have diverted us onto a different path because she's Heather.
Right. Rick, I'm going to throw it back to you. Not sure what direction Heather Chang is going to go in next here. What do you think?
So I'm just thinking, you know, it could have been something like ATM or CDK12.
Yes. ATM, that one.
So the problem is, and actually as it so happens, Len has looked at this extensively. The problem is that the PARP inhibitor was approved for an ATM, but the evidence is just not there. It was a fault of the trial. And as far as we can tell, these PARP inhibitors work very well if you have BRCA1 or BRCA2, but all the other mutations that they were approved for olaparib, there isn't a lot of good evidence that you may respond, but the evidence isn't there. Len, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Most studies done with the PARP inhibitors show that the response rate to patients with ATM mutations, if they used a PARP inhibitor, was extremely low, 8%, maybe 15%. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what it amounts to. It's patients with ATM mutations don't respond well to PARP inhibitors like olaparib.
So here's what I think I would be talking to her about. First of all, it's possible, I missed a little bit because I lost my connection there, but I suspect that you were talking about the sensitivity of the cells if they're morphing into neuroendocrine cells, that they could be sensitive to the carboplatin, and I think that's probably what she's hoping for. So it's possible that you're going to get a response from the carboplatin with the cabazitaxel. I would be talking to her. Have you discussed any trials? I guess that's the starting point. What trials have you discussed?
No, because she was following the standard treatment regimen, and no, I remember in the beginning he was not eligible for something for a particular reason. I think it was the discussion of PARP. That was back then, actually. So no, in general, we have not. No.
Okay, so don't let this standard treatment get in the way. You can push her, and she can go around the standard treatment, and it's really you are your best advocate or your brother's best advocate, and you can push her. At this point, definitely I would be looking at the trials. There's a lot of stuff out there, but I think what might be most interesting would be the BITE trials, BITE. And essentially what these are finding a hook in the cancer and on one side of the molecule, and on the other side of the molecule, hooking a T cell. And so you basically pull the T cell. Do you know what T cells are?
Yes.
Right. So you're basically pulling that T cell right into the prostate cancer. And I forget what BITE stands for, but Herb will tell me. Bispecific. You're muted.
I'm unmuted. They're bispecific antibodies. So basically, they hook one side to the cancer cell, one side to attract the T cell.
Right. And there are several of these trials going on around the country. We know because we've looked at them for other men. Amgen is running, Xencor is running, Regeneron is running. And when we get to a point where few things seem to be working, then we start looking at some of these bispecific trials. The other trials that are really interesting, and again, she's familiar with all of these, so you got to ask her what's available, what would be available in the Seattle area, et cetera, are the trials that are turning the prostate cancer tumors into hot tumors as opposed to cold tumors. So let me explain what that means as I understand it, but I will defer to my boffins here. Essentially, the reason why we haven't found any really good immunotherapies that work with prostate cancer is because the tumors are what's called cold tumors, and they don't, they're not receptive to T cells. So the T cells want to attack them, but they can't get in and they can't grasp something and they can't really work. And what we're finding is that if you mix the immunotherapy with another type of drug, and we don't really know what that drug is yet because that's what we're looking to through the trials, but it might be a PARP inhibitor, or it might be abiraterone, or it might be one of a number of different drugs. That it turns that cold tumor into a hot tumor, and hot tumors, for example, melanoma is a tumor that's very receptive to immunotherapy. It's a hot tumor. Then the immunotherapy drugs start to work much better. I mean, there's a trial that Dennis McGuire, who's on this call right now, looked at where they were using a blood cancer chemotherapy to basically turn the tumor into a hot tumor. And then they were also using, in conjunction with that, one of the immunotherapy drugs. So what we're trying to do is manipulate the prostate cancer tumors into being more receptive than they are. So those are two areas. Anybody else want to talk about trials that Julie might be able to research? Herb?
Okay, let me turn on my mic. So I've just done a quick scan on clinicaltrials.gov for trials where they're looking at DNA repair defects. And there are several that are recruiting. And I think if they really echo what Rick said, they're really looking at trying to activate T cells and get them into the tumor. So I would definitely, with your oncologist, sit down and say, which of these trials looks promising? You know, which are the ones that might be worth it? I mean, there's one I saw where they're combining abiraterone, prednisone, and olaparib in this type of tumor. But you say you hadn't tried abiraterone. Is that correct?
Nope, there's a jar sitting in the cupboard, but she went to enzalutamide instead, I think because of his underlying health conditions, if I remember.
Right.
She thought it would be easier.
Well, I mean, abiraterone does depend on liver metabolism, so it may be that his liver enzymes may not support that, but I don't know. That's something you'd have to look at. So I think there are clinical trials, and I think sitting down with her and saying, look, what do you think is the best bet here?
Okay. All right. You guys are wonderful. I certainly appreciate all those ideas.
And one other thing, don't let her fob you off by saying, well, let's see what happens with the carboplatin and the cabazitaxel.
Yeah.
Response to that is, let's see, we're fine, we agree, let's go through it, but let's be looking for trials whilst he's on there in case he doesn't respond.
Right. So
Okay.
I guess, can I ask the question why he hasn't been treated over the past few months?
We did several radiation sessions and he was not feeling well. Just sum total of all of the things he's been through. He had severe fatigue. He just wasn't feeling well. And she said that her risk-benefit ratio was better if he was feeling a little better before we started. Now, that was 4 weeks. 4 weeks was fine. He ended up in the ER. We've had 3 trips to the ER. And so it delayed it another 4 weeks, which I'm sure she wasn't happy about. So we ended up at 8 weeks to start the second-line chemo. That was not her druthers. So.
We have a chat window here. There's a couple of interesting comments in the chat window. If you click on the little speech bubble, it'll open the chat window so you can see what's in there.
He's on the phone, Rick.
Oh, Julie's on the phone?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, but I can see it. No, I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. AH was on the phone. I don't think Julie was, but anyway.
Why did she give up on enzi? This world is all about the PSA, and I think she just didn't. I'm so sorry, I'm not better prepared. It was either the PSA was going up, or we did a scan, and there were more tumors, or they had grown.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of that kind of news, like after the docetaxel, the tumors, a couple went smaller, but some went bigger, and then he had new ones. So she moves on very quickly. She doesn't waste time, that's for sure.
I can see that. It might be worth your while and raise it with her just to do an ARV7 test.
ARV7?
Right.
Because he may have failed the enzalutamide because he's ARV7 positive, but it may not. It may have been something else. And if he's ARV7 negative, then he may be receptive to the abiraterone. I mean, at this point, there's no harm in checking it out. I still think your best bet is to start thinking of it. If he doesn't respond to the carboplatin and the cabazitaxel, is to be thinking about trials and be looking at them now. But I would do an ARV7 test. It is a covered test, and it's provided by Epic Sciences now. And you can check. You can at least check and confirm. And we've had other people who have done that on this call, and they also haven't done well with these drugs. And as it turns out, they've been ARV7 negative as well. But if he is ARV7 negative, then we should at least try the abiraterone.
Okay, and that's a blood test or from a tumor?
Blood test.
Okay.
Okay. So these are all things to discuss, and feel free to tell her you've been talking to the Ancan guys. She knows who.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Hey, this is Tony. And I'd like to ask Julie a question. And I want to. I'm sorry that you're going through this, Julie. And I will keep your brother and I will keep everybody who is on this call in my prayers. But what I wanted to ask is, it sounds like, man, it's so close to when I got diagnosed with mine, because I got diagnosed with prostate cancer stage 4, and it went into my bones. in September of 2018, and right off the bat, man, they put me on Lupron. I mean, there was no, there was, I don't know what the word would be for it, but I've been taking these Lupron shots every 3 months for the last 2 years, and I wanted to tell everybody that I made a mistake.
Okay, Tony, we're going to come to you, and you can talk about, and we'll catch up with you about your own case. But what do you?
Well, no, this has to pertain to
Julie.
But this pertained to her case because I just couldn't figure out. She said that it sounded like to me. She said that the Lupron didn't work for her brother. Was that correct?
Well,
he's been on Lupron this entire time, so it's working in the sense that it's suppressing his testosterone numbers, yes, but it's not enough to stop the tumor growth.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
thank you, Tony.
Thank Tony. That's what happens, Tony, with Lupron is after a while it just doesn't do the job anymore, and the doctors still keep you on it because it supplements. But you need to do more things, and that's where Mike is, and that's where several of the guys on this call are. Okay, so it's not that the Lupron isn't working, it just isn't working enough.
Oh, I see.
Okay? All right. Anyone else like to say anything before we move along?
Can I just ask one more question of Peter, who did do the duo? Did it knock your PSA down? Did you have a reduction in the tumor size on your scan, et cetera? You have to unmute yourself. I can't. There you go.
Yes, it did work for me, and I think it continues to work. In order to really tell, I need to have a PSMA scan. But again, I do not have the liver mets or I've got some other issues going on. And I think it has worked. It knocked down my PSA, not to an undetectable stage. But again, I don't know whether it was the chemo or the second line anti-androgen I was taking, or the combination of the two. There's no way to really tell. I've been off for about 3 months now, and I'm feeling pretty good. It took me a couple of months to rebound, but it's I feel for Mike, and it's a tough call, and it sounds like he's got pretty serious disease. But I'm really glad that you found the right medical oncologist for this.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
She's really good.
I appreciate all your knowledge. Thank you. You guys are great.
Julie, if we don't have your email address,
you do.
Do we? Okay.
Yep.
You put it in. Okay. So here's what we'll do. We meet every week, so you can keep coming back to us as often as you like, we'll keep bombarding you with ideas, new ideas. Everybody on this call is reading throughout the week, and we see new things, we hear new things, and if you're up to it, it's worth. I know you're still at work, so you probably want to get home, but it is worth listening in and listening to some of the other conversations, because you can pick up stuff as well.
Sure. And you wanted me to send his biopsy report for mutations. Who do I send that to?
You can send it to me. Send it to rd@ancan.org. Rick Davis, rd@ancan.org, and then I'll forward it on to a couple of the other gents to take a quick look at as well.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a pleasure. That's a pleasure, and we hope to talk to you again very soon and give our best to Mike. One thing you can say to Mike, I know he's probably feeling tired and fatigued, but if you can get him out and get him to walk 15 minutes every day, it's going to make a huge difference for him.
Yeah, I tried. He won't. It's a personality personality problem. He never did exercise. I've tried everything. So, yeah, I hear you.
Are you enjoying the work, or does he have other family that's helping him?
My sister and brother live here. They just, they don't like things that are hard. I don't mind things that are hard, so I'm the most involved.
Okay.
Bless you.
The other thing I would add is just make sure that you know that there's a nice caregivers group on here as well. So you might be interested in that because it sounds like you're very active in this, and that may give you some additional resources just to kind of talk with people who are in the same boat as you are outside of the disease.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea because I am feeling kind of alone. Yeah,
yeah.
Great.
You were reading my mind. I was just going to say to you, Julie, the caregivers group meets twice a month, tomorrow, Tuesday, and the first and third Tuesdays at the same time, 5 o'clock Pacific. You are very, very welcome. We are meeting tomorrow night. We decided we would meet tomorrow night. So you're very welcome to come on. We've got some wonderful, wonderful ladies who have experienced what you're going through, who moderate. I help with that moderation. And there is a Chinese wall between what goes on in that call and what goes on in this call.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, Tracy. Okay, yeah, and that's true for any of you who have caregivers at home, care partners at home who want to bitch and moan about you. Send them to the caregivers group tomorrow, and we have a very large ear to listen. So, okay, I saw that Alice, whatever her name was, Hollier, dropped off. Hopefully she put her email in and I can drop her a line, and we'll try and get them back. In the meantime, we don't have anyone else new, so I'm going to go down and check who would like some time today, and get ready to unmute as I get to you. And my first question is there any action on the Eastern Front?
Third SBRT is tomorrow, then we'll do a targeting scan on Thursday. But other than that, it's quiet.
It's quiet. Did you say an SBRT tomorrow and a targeting scan on Thursday?
Third SBRT is tomorrow.
Oh, third SBRT and then a targeting scan. Okay. So I'm just making notes, and feel free to jump in. Would you like time, Rich?
No, I think we've got other folks that needed a bit more. Thank you.
No. I'm putting you down for a quickie, okay? I'm putting you down for a 2-minute Russ.
You're not my type. You're not my type.
Okay. All right, we're coming back to you. Jake, anything for you?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay. Peter Monaco, anything for you?
No, Rick, nothing for me.
How's that hip? Are you doing the can yet?
I'm almost there. I'm feeling great, Rick. Recovery's almost complete. Thank you for asking.
When are you playing golf?
Well, I'm planning to play anytime after Thanksgiving, if weather permitting. Otherwise, I'm going to Florida to be a snowbird this year in February, March, and part of April, and I plan to make up for lost time while I'm down there.
Well, okay, and I think you're not that far away from Len, as I recall. You're within about an hour of where Len is. So
yeah, I'm in New Jersey.
No, I mean when you're in Florida.
I don't know, Len, where do you go? I'm renting homes, a couple of homes this year. I'm going to Marco in February and Anna Maria Island in March. And then I'm going to go to my timeshare for 2 weeks down in Palm Beach. So I'm driving all of this from Jersey because I don't want to fly because of the virus. So
I'm in Venice, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
So Anna Maria Island's probably closer.
And when do you go down there? Are you down there all year? No, you're in Connecticut,
I'll be
right?
there later in November until at least sometime in May.
Okay, well, if you play golf, let's get together.
I don't, unfortunately.
Well, we can get together anyway. We don't have to play golf.
All right. Okay, Peter Kafka, anything for you today?
No, I'm good. I'm okay.
Okay. Ken Anderson, you want to give us a little update, Mr. Anderson?
You know, I don't, Rick, I'm in a better place mentally, but I don't really have any information, so I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what Paul said, but other than that, I mean, I don't really have any news.
Well, you can tell us what Paul said. We'll come back to you. Is Paul free? Yes, Paul Frieda. Welcome back. How are you? Are you there? All right, we'll come back and ask Paul Frieda again. He must have stepped away for a minute. David Muslin, anything for you? You're muted. Yes, you like some time? Okay, I got you. And now you can figure out how to unmute till we get back to you. Jerry Pelfrey, anything for you?
Not tonight. No, thank you.
Okay, Les, anything for you?
Maybe a quick one if you have time. Thanks.
Okay, and Les pointed out today, we knew this, but just for all of you, if you go looking for us on Amazon Smile, we're still Answer Cancer Foundation. We're working to try and get Ancan and Answer Cancer Foundation on the name, but it ain't easy. So we're working on it. Jim Barnes, anything for you today?
I just had my third SBRT treatment tomorrow, and I'm going to Marco Island this winter too. That's all. I really don't need it.
Another one on DeMarco Island. We'll be able to have a physical Ancan meeting down there. What number was your treatment today, Jim?
It's tomorrow, and it's treatment number 3 of 6.
Okay. Gao Shan, anything for you today?
Yes, I wanted to give you an update of what's transpired with getting my PSMA scan and meeting with Dr. Vogelzang and now with OHSU up in Portland, Oregon.
Perfect. We'll come back to you. We'd like to hear that. Joe Blanchette, anything for you?
Oh, thanks, Rick.
Okay. John Ivory, anything for you today? No.
Nope, just lending my ears to the experts.
Okay. Rusty, anything for you?
No, just that things are going good, and I've worked the D1 high school championship, our quarterfinal on Saturday. I've done 4 games in the last week to be good. So it's all good news. I'm done.
And you're still standing upright? Fantastic.
It's more than a football game to put me down.
Okay, so what I want to know is, are you wearing your Ancan t-shirt underneath your zebra shirt?
Of course.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. We've just had another caller join. Who is that you, David?
Yes.
Okay, got you. Okay. Dale,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, and we'll come back to you.
Great, thanks.
Dell, hello. Anything for you today?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Tracy, anything for you today?
If you have time, it's just like a question or two, kind of, it's not really medical so much, it's just kind of relating to adjustment to the news and how long it took people, stuff like that.
Okay, yep. That's always a good topic. Sylvester, anything for you?
No, thank you very much.
Carl, anything you'd like to talk about?
Not tonight, thank you.
Herb, anything you'd like to review?
No, not yet. Thanks.
Okay. Len, anything for you?
No, thank you, Rick.
Jeff Hancock, anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to all of you because the first time I came on, everyone suggested that I check into getting going in a trial or whatever to get a PSMA scan before I started treatment. And we managed to get a hold of a Dr. Baylor at the IU Med Center, and they have a PSMA machine that they're getting ready to go. They're getting ready to go in trial in December.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you, Jeff, so you can
Okay.
give us an update. We'll go through everybody and we'll get back. Tony C., anything you'd like to talk about today?
Yeah, I would just like to say, well, I wanted to say a personal thanks to Jim Barnes because
Okay,
I
we'll
called
come
him
back
that.
to you. We'll come back to you. I'm just checking to see how many people we got to get through. And we'll come back to everybody I said we'd come back to. So, Mark, anything for you today?
No, just sitting here and listening.
Okay. Al Latimer, anything for you today?
Yes, I have an update. I'd like to speak for a couple minutes.
Terrific. Bill Franklin, anything you'd like to talk about today? Are you still with us?
No, he left.
I think he left. Dennis McGuire, anything for you?
No update today. Thanks, Rick.
Okay, and just in case you were worried that I'd forgotten you, Larry Fish, anything for you today?
I wasn't worried. I just knew I was going to be punished. And no, thank you, Rick.
Okay, I can't win with this
You need
guy.
to touch base with Paul Frieda too, I believe.
Oh yes, Paul Frieda, are you back with us? Are you there, Paul? Okay, remind me again, and we'll touch base with him. Okay, so we'll start off with just a quick one with Rich Jackson, who we so appreciate. I should just say that Rich is one of our really fine worker bees and volunteers, and he does such a lot for us in lots of areas. So when Rich says it's not important enough or other people are more important, that's not the case as far as I'm concerned. So Rich, just give the guys a quick update on your situation and where you are.
Two groups of Mets showed up on the PSMA scan, lymph nodes. First group was going to be treated three rounds of SBRT, just outside of the the primary treated area, so they weren't as worried about the dose. Third treatment will be tomorrow. Then we'll do a targeting scan later this week for the next batch, which is para-aortic lymph nodes. That one we're looking at probably 25 treatments. So the month of November will suck.
Is that because they can't treat the peri-aortic with SBRT, Rich?
Well, they'll use the targeting scan and dial everything in and see what's the best option. Because the initial targeting they did was just for the three lower growing area iliac lymph nodes.
Okay.
And then they'll fuse that with the PSMA scan and see what's available.
So
how the physics work.
Right. So I mean, so there is a chance that you might be able to do this with the stereotactic and reduce the number of sessions, but it's just you don't have enough information yet.
Correct. They haven't looked specifically at that target.
Right. Okay. Any questions for us first?
Not at the moment.
Any question? Anything anybody would like to say to Rich? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
Rich, did you say all of the Mets were lymph nodes?
Yes.
Okay.
A couple of hot spots in the iliac lymph nodes growing area just outside the original treatment area. The original treatment area, they found nothing that lit up on the PSMA scan. So the prostate and the prostate beds are still totally negative. And they found the two 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter lymph node hotspots, and a couple in the periaortic area that were higher uptake value but smaller tumors. So that's what they're shooting for.
And you're going to wait and see how this responds before you have any discussion about drugs.
Earliest a drug decision would be made is probably next spring.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Quick question for Rich. Is the PSMA scan, where are you getting it?
It was a clinical trial, stage 3 for recurrent. They were using it to try to validate the accuracy of a positive outcome on the scan, which they discovered the tumors they found were half the size or less than half the size the conventional scans were picking up. I had 2 CTs and 2 bone scans within 4 months that found absolutely nothing.
And where is the PSMA scan you were having done?
This one is Norfolk, Virginia. It's a stage 3. Dr. Fleming is running it. Blue Earth Diagnostics is the parent company that's running the clinical trial.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
But by the way, Blue Earth Diagnostics are also the people that manufacture the contrast for the Axumin. That's Blue Earth Diagnostics is Axumin. Okay, so let's move on. Ken, please tell us what give the guys a very quick synopsis and then tell us what Paul said.
Well, I don't know about a synopsis, but I mean, the fact is that I'm definitely doing better. You know, when I was on the call last time, I was probably 4 days into chemo plus kind of over the edge with the news. So anyway, Paul's comments were definitely start searching for a clinical trial, and we were looking at a number of them, but don't have any at the moment to kind of report on. Gonna do the PSA test this coming Friday, along with the Garden 360 genomic sequencing, and get some imaging, the Axumin imaging, probably here locally if I can. If not, I'll have to fly to Houston to get it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. So the last PSA test was right after you did.
It was at the same time when I did round 8. So only reason I'll do round 9 is if the PSA on Friday doesn't if it flatlines or doesn't show progression, then I'll do another round of docetaxel. Odds are quite unlikely, but one never knows. So
in other words, you've done 8, and you're going to wait to look at 9 until you get the PSA results?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 9's on the 13th. PSA is on the 6th. So yeah, I won't do number 9, of course, if the rate of increase is similar to the last round. So he says, no doubt I will not do, at least not at the moment. I won't go from docetaxel to cabazitaxel because it's too much chemo kind of in a line. So I definitely need to do a clinical trial. He's not too keen on the whack-a-mole for bone mets. I don't have any lymph node involvement, at least I didn't on the last PET scan. So it's just like 3 bone spots based on the last scan. So a good comparison a year later. he thinks is a great idea. So if I can't get my insurance company to approve the Axumin PET scan here locally, then I'll go to MD Anderson to get it done. So that's kind of where I am.
And your last PSA was 32, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're all keeping our fingers crossed for you for this one on the 6th. And see where you go.
That's where I'm at right now, yep.
Okay. Any questions or anything anybody wants to say to Ken? Or Ken, do you have any questions about any of the trials?
No, Paul's looking at the 3 that you had sent me and the Amgen 160 trial. So I don't really have any questions. I've done a lot of research on all of them, but I'll kind of wait for him to kind of give me some guidance on what he thinks a possible 1 number might be in and number 2 might be. It's all going to depend on, his comments. I mean, I had a 90-minute chat with him on, I don't know what day it was last week, Friday. So, yeah, a really good guy.
Yeah. We interviewed, Len and I interviewed Elena Eustathio and Tom Baer last week, and she was saying some really wonderful things about Paul Korn before we went live. She's at Houston to MD Anderson as well. She's one of his colleagues in his group. So, okay, we'll keep. Anyone else have anything they want to say to Ken before we move along?
Is Keytruda still on the table?
Yeah, 2 of the trials include Keytruda. So we talked a great deal about it, ipilimumab and nivolumab, all the stuff that's kind of being looked at right now. So he didn't cross it off, and it was one that was on his list 3 months ago. So he did take off, let me get to because I sent a big list of questions, and the first thing he wanted to do was to go down my list after he asked how I was doing. He said 3 months ago, ipilimumab and nivolumab had great promise, but he's changed his mind at the moment because of some recent results. So he's not too keen on radium-223 at the moment. But to answer your question, yes, Keytruda is still a possibility along with something else, not on its own.
Yeah, so I mean, this ipi-nivolumab is another strategy to try and make a cold tumor hot. And I thought I read somewhere that one of the trials did get some decent results out of that, but I'd have to go back and look. Does that ring a bell with you at all, Len? Or Herb?
I was just going to tell Ken that the Prostate Cancer Foundation retreat, Matthew Reddick at UCLA talked about Amgen 160, which Ken I know is considering. And there is a part 2 to that trial where they include pembrolizumab, and they're recruiting right now, and he qualifies for it because he's failed ADT plus chemo. So he's definitely eligible.
Well, then that's the one that's on the top of my list.
Yeah.
But I do want Paul's input prior to me even organizing my list. So.
Okay.
And if I can figure out where I read something about ipi and nivolumab, I'll let you know, Ken.
Well, they had some clinical trials at MD Anderson, and the results were not good.
Okay.
So he's crossed it off. He said it's absolutely not on the list.
Okay. Save me work. All right, so we'll keep moving down this list here. And David Muslin, how are you doing on abiraterone?
So far, so good.
Fantastic.
I've Yeah, I've been on it for 17 days, so no side effects, and I'm really happy so
Wow.
far.
Wow. Bit of a difference to the enzalutamide, huh?
Oh my God, it's like I'm just, what I'm worried about is getting through the first 30 days, but so far I'm grateful for 17
Yeah.
days of feeling well.
Yeah.
I had my blood check last week. My PSA continues to go down. It went from 0.08 in January, and now it's down to 0.06.
Great.
I'm going to have some scans in the middle of this month, and it's been a beautiful day.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I'm really pleased for you that you're tolerating the Abi, because I think you are right up there amongst all the men we've known that tried enzalutamide that had the worst time with it, and you deserve something better than that. And I'm so glad that it's working for you. Who would like to talk to David about enzalutamide, abiraterone? How much prednisone are you taking? Didn't you say just 5 milligrams a day?
Correct.
Yeah. So
And
who
just
go ahead.
Just one last thing, and I'm going to have my blood checked twice this month for my liver enzymes, and then we'll check it every 30 days after that.
Right.
So she's on it.
Good. Okay.
I just had a question. I have Xandy sitting on my kitchen counter here that I'm supposed to be taking, but I'm terrified to start taking it. But I was just curious. I guess Dennis, you couldn't, or David, you couldn't tolerate the enzalutamide?
Couldn't tolerate it. Really knocked me right on my ass in a big way.
And the abiraterone is not as bad.
So far, no side effects. Just kind of, I just want to be like Herb.
Right. Well, David, I assume you're on ADT as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think the major side effects are, to me, coming from the ADT, and the abiraterone adds all the, it inhibits steroid synthesis better, but you're still deficient because of the ADT.
Right.
I want to say to Jim, and I want to say to Jim that, there are some people who are the reverse, and we've known them too, Jim, that they cannot tolerate the abiraterone. It knocks them for 6, but they do fine on the enzalutamide. So so much of it is up to each person. Jake, you tolerated the enzalutamide really well.
Yeah, so
That's correct. Yeah, I was on it for 30 months. And I had no real problems other than fatigue. But as Herb says, that goes with the territory no matter what you're doing.
Right. Al, what did you want to say?
I've been on the Zytiga. I was on it for almost 4 years. And other than fatigue, I really didn't have any problems with it. I stopped it because my PSA started going up again. But I didn't have any severe side effects with it or the hormone blockade. Well, I already had fatigue from the Lupron, although I was not on Lupron. I was on estrogen. I had less fatigue with the estrogen than the Lupron.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I tolerated the Zytiga pretty well. I mean, the Xtandi, sorry.
Yeah, anyone else have comments on side effects on either? Abi, Tracy, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe I've had a great response with Xtandi. I don't necessarily feel fatigued. I've been taking it for a little over a month, and as far as I can tell, I'm not really getting any side effects from it. So I'm quite pleased with it.
Yeah.
I get some hot flashes a little bit, but that seems to have phased away a little bit. Nothing, no side effects worth mentioning.
Right.
I'm getting some of the hot flashes, a little bit of mental fog on it, and fatigue. I was wondering if Does any data on mono abiraterone, because it's blocking all the enzymes that would make testosterone, whether it's from the adrenal gland or the testicle. The Lupron is just going to stop testicle production. So I'm wondering if it's just as effective and whether you need the Lupron at the same time as you're getting
I
Abi.
mean, I think Len just put something in the chat window that in fact, there is data that's showing if you're on Abi alone, it's just as effective in suppressing testosterone as if you're on Lupron plus Abi.
Well, when I memorized all the chicken wire steroid hormones, it would seem like
Yes.
you wouldn't need them and they're duplicative.
Right. If you're inhibiting 7-alpha reductase, right, there's nothing coming out.
Right, exactly. So you don't need it and saves a little bit of money. Abi went up 10% last month to this month in cost, and the best I could shop for.
I'm assuming that's the generic form of the Abi. Is that right, Mark, or is that Zytiga?
Both were up. Medicare was awful on the Plan D, so I've gone to Gold RX or Good RX, and I paid for the Gold, but for all the medicines I've been on, the Gold is more expensive than just the regular walk-in coupon, and the prices varied from $290 to $800 for a month's supply.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I think, what the jury is still not out is the Chicago regimen of Abi 250 with food.
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you tried that regimen? Because I'm not sure the jury is still out. I mean, there have been some reliable trials on that, and you can take a quarter dose with food, Mark.
Certainly better than not eating for a while before and after, and spending all that money. I'll ask Dr. Turner about it later this week.
All right, I think I know we've got trial information on that. I'll make a note to try and send it to you, Mark. Abi plus food. I know we've got stuff. And Len, wasn't that monotherapy trial small though? Wasn't that the issue with it? It was a small sample.
It was, Rick. I think it was, I don't know, probably around 50 people.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big trial. I think they considered it phase 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, anybody else have anything on enzalutamide versus abiraterone? And we just don't want to scare anybody off of taking these drugs. You've just got to take them and see how you respond. Some people respond great. Some people don't feel it. And then in terms of their PSA, same thing. Some people it'll control, other people it just doesn't. One thing I did hear on this subject this week from somebody, and it was really news to me, is that in order to get an ARV7 test with Epic Science, you have to have failed at least one second-line anti-androgen, which to me makes no sense, because originally they developed this test so the insurance companies could determine whether they should prescribe abiraterone or enzalutamide. And now they're saying, well, if you failed one, we'll check to see if you're ARV7 positive to save you time going on the next one. So I just don't know. I have not spoken to Epic Sciences, but the ARV7 test may not be as readily available as we thought it was. At one point, it was available through Hopkins, but it's not as good a test as the Epic Science test, and it may still be available through Johns Hopkins because they had a patent on one of the tests. Does everybody, by the way, know, or does Len do a quick description of ARV7?
A description of ARV7? Well, it stands for androgen receptor splice variant 7. And so what happens is the androgen receptor mutates so that the androgen blocker, the drug, the androgen inhibitor, let's say enzalutamide, is no longer effective in blocking the receptor, and the receptor becomes what they call constitutively active, which means it's just constantly, the receptor is constantly active. It doesn't need any drug or ligand or any other chemical to activate it. It's always activated. So it spells the end of response to any kind of ADT, or at least androgen receptor blockers.
And abiraterone.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's true too. Yes.
Okay. We'll keep moving because we've got a lot of people still. We've got time.
Because we have the Hong Kong Bank. It was a Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. The Hong Kong Shanghai Bank.
So we'll come to Mr. Idstein momentarily when the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank has left him. Les, you had a couple of questions for us.
Yes, well, Jim, maybe just an update. In the past, 7.5 years, when there's been, when done something, whether it's surgery or radiation or cryoablation or whatever, it would knock the PSA down, and it would stay way down, like a less than 0.1 for some time, and then it would start back up. And when it would get loose every time, doubling time was about every 6 weeks until do a scan, PET scan, and they see where it is and do something else, would knock it down and for a period of time, and then eventually would head back up at the rate of doubling time every 6 weeks. About 2.5 years ago, they did a cryoablation on 2 spots on my spine, T7 and T11, and that knocked it down for some time. It reoccurred fairly recently on T7, so this time they did a radiation, and this time it didn't do much. It slowed down the rate of increase, but it didn't knock it down. So I'm assuming from that there's more to it. The PSA is not high yet. It's up to 2.2, but it's still increasing. So I assume there's more to come somewhere.
And are you still on a holiday, on a Lupron holiday, Les?
Yes, I am.
So what are your plans?
Well, I don't know. I've got there's another PET scan planned for a month from yesterday. I guess we'll go from there, see if they can find out where cancer is located and see what else they're going to do.
Okay, who would like to talk to us? Peter's busy. Peter's reading something. Len, would you like to have a chat with Les?
Les, I'm really sorry. I was trying to find that study of abiraterone with food, and I'm afraid I missed what you were saying. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually found it, Len, but you can go on and talk about something else.
Okay. Will you post it in the chat window, please, Herb? If you can. I know I have a link to it, so we'll do it. So the bottom line is the last PSA, the last radiation treatment for Les didn't slow the PSA down that much, and he's gone from 1.1 in August to 2.2 now. And so he's thinking about going back for another PET scan to see where the cancer is.
Sounds like good advice. I would do that.
I don't know what the recommendation could be. I suppose, well, it depends on where it would be located. If they can locate it, whether it's radiation or whatever, I guess it would all depend upon if they can locate a spot.
Well, at a PSA of over 2, they certainly should be able to, either with the, I know you kind of like the choline scan, but even Axumin should pick it up, or a PSMA PET scan, although I know that might be a problem for you to find some place where you can get that done.
Yeah, Axumin, there's a place hour and a half drive from here, so that wouldn't be a problem. The reason I've been using the C11 choline is that's what they used at Mayo Clinic in Rochester.
Right.
That's up to now. You've just had lymph nodes, right? That's the only activity you've had.
How was that?
Up to now, you just had lymph node meds, correct?
No, I've had the lymph nodes and the 2 spots on my spine, T7 and T11.
Okay.
And that's been about it.
So this is like 3 months of doubling, yeah?
Yeah, it actually, the 1.1 was back in, I guess, August. September it was 1.8, and then earlier, or just in October, just a couple of weeks ago, it was 2.2.
Okay, so it hasn't doubled yet, but it's on the move.
How was that again?
It hasn't doubled yet, but it's on the move. Is what
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah, the last radiation slowed down the increase, so it went from 1.8 to 2.2 in 1 month. But it slowed down the increase, but didn't stop it.
Yeah, Peter, it's doubled in 3 months. It was 1.1 in August. It's 2.2 in November, and there was some treatment in between.
Les, this is Jake. Have you and your doctor established a threshold when you'll start back on the Lupron?
No, nothing's been said. I assume, well, I'll be talking to him the 1st of December, and we'll figure out something from there.
They'll probably want to scan you before they put you back on 82.
Yes. Yeah, the scan is scheduled for December 1st.
Okay. So let's figure out what the information generates, Les, and help you do the best. We help you navigate you the best we can to make the best decisions at that time. Yep. And don't hesitate to ask us in the interim if you have any thoughts.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
That's it. I just want to check. Anybody else want to say anything to Les before we move on to another subject? I just want to make sure, Dr. Mark, that you saw the link in the chat window. You're muted right now, Mark. Still muted. Okay. Well, he'll unmute, but as we just make sure you see the the chat window reference for the European Journal of whatever it was study on food and abiraterone, and you'll save yourself some money. And we at Ancan only look for 10% of the savings, so you're in good shape. Now, where are we? We are with Gaoshan. Gaoshan, bring us up to date, man. Where are you, first of all? Are you back in Taiwan?
No, I flew from Taiwan to Los Angeles on October 1st after being there for a month. After I was able to book an appointment at UCLA Medical on the 2nd in the afternoon to do the PSMA scan. At the same time, I also booked an appointment to see Dr. Nicholas Vogelsang in Las Vegas in the middle of October. So I had the scan on the 2nd, and on the 5th or 6th of October, I received the results of the scan, and I spoke to the head clinical guy, Martin Allen Auerbach, and the impression is that I had history of prostate cancer. It was removed, and the PSMA PET CT evidence of local recurrence is negative.
Oh, wow.
And no metastasis.
That's great.
So
That's great.
So that wasn't the result that I was thinking was going to happen, nor the result that the referring doctor in Canada thought. And I called and spoke to the doctor, and basically he said that, you know, it's either very small, but there's a very small likelihood that your antigens or cancer, if it's there. I mean, I have cancer for sure, but there's no sign of that it may not be producing PSMA, so it doesn't come up. But he said that's so small that it's more like that what is there is very, very small, so it doesn't show up. So I also made an appointment, and I saw Dr. Nicholas Vogelsang at his clinic in middle of October. And I met with him for an hour and a half and went through a number of things. He recommended, but he said the most important thing is, where do you want to do the treatment? I can treat you, but do you have family in the US? So I said, well, I have my son in Portland, Oregon, but he's quite busy. And he said, well, I can treat you, but I can also make a call right now to a Dr. Thomas Beer at OHSU and a Dr. Vuki and see if they can see you. So I proceeded on that basis and flew to Portland and had a meeting this morning with Dr. Vuki and a follow-up one with Dr. Thomas Beer later in the month. But she reviewed all of my data, and as I told you the last time, in January of 2020, my PSA was 2.66. In June, it was 2.55, and it was under 3, but rose up a bit at the early part of September. This week, I'll have another PSA and a testosterone blood test done, so they have the prior data plus a new baseline of what it is now. They gave me a pill that I should take for the next 2 weeks before I start some kind of ADT, which they're still deciding on. But they gave me pills to take for 2 weeks starting tomorrow called bicalutamide. And the other thing that I organized was to have a genetic test to see what mutations or whatever that might be done, and that's been referred. It seems as though those appointments are not easy to come by, and it's looking like it's going to be the end of the month before that happens. And I also have an appointment at some point the end of this month to meet with a radiologist to discuss possible treatment there as well. Because in my meeting with Dr. Vogelsang, he said, based on everything that's gone on, I should have seen you 2 years ago, not today. And I want you to, if you don't do it with me and you do it with OHSU, you need to move ahead with your treatment as soon as possible. But I also would not rule out, even at this point, some type of radiation. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So, couple of things here. So your PSA is still climbing. It's now up around 3.0. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, 2 point, almost 3, within a couple of digits. So it went from January of 2.66, then to 2.58, and now just under 3. And what the doctor said today was that my doubling time is somewhere around, right now around 10 plus months, maybe 11 months.
Okay. You know, there are people that don't make PSMA. I actually thought it was quite a high number, which doesn't conform with what UCLA told you, but some of my gurus here might be able to confirm, but I thought it was around 30% of people do not make PSMA. And they tend to...
He said it was a small percentage, but didn't give me a number. I don't think small would be 30%, but I don't know.
Which is Herb and Len, or anybody else on the call. Do you have any input as to how many men do not make PSMA?
You know, Rick, I can tell you, Paul just said 8% last week.
He said 8% last week. Okay. So maybe it's a smaller number than I thought. So
right, and that's what Dr. Alan Auerbach said, that it's a very small number. Now, I would think, I would have thought, 3, 5, 6%, something like that. So 8's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And as I said in my meeting with Dr. Vogelsang in Las Vegas, he said, "There's no doubt you have cancer and you need to start your treatment. I can do it, or I'll refer you to OHSU." And that's where I am now. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So I don't know the first doctor you mentioned. Did you say Ruki? Dr. Ruki?
No, Dr. Thomas Beer.
Right. And who is the other doctor?
Is a woman by the name of Dr. Vuky, V-U-K-Y.
V-U-K-Y. I've not heard of, I don't know her. Is she is she a medical oncologist, or is she is? I do know we do know Tom Baer. By the way, he pronounces it Bear.
Right.
We found that out because, as I mentioned before, we interviewed him last week.
Right.
And he's a very compassionate and a very smart doc. And I would definitely consider him to be my main man.
Well, the situation as it stands now, even he supposedly wasn't taking patients, but he would see me based on a recommendation by Dr. Vogelsang, but he didn't have any appointments until December. And I didn't want to wait till December 4th. So I figured that I would start with the one that he recommended to see, and then the possibility that I can work with him or he would consult.
Okay, well, you're in good hands if you see Tom Baer. We can't say to you about Vuki. And yeah, I mean, it does sound like there's something going on, and radiation therapy is certainly, salvage radiation is certainly a good alternative. You don't know, oh, I know what the other thing I wanted to say to you was, as far as getting a germline test, you can do that yourself with color. I mean, through the doctor, you have to go to Ambry or one of the others and wait on a geneticist. You don't need to do that. You can call up color.com and they'll send you the kit. You order the test. They'll either send it to your doctor. You can have them send it back to Tom Baer or Vuki or Nick Vogelsang, and and they'll give you the results, or a geneticist or a color genetic counselor will give you the results. So there's no reason to be waiting if it's the germline test you're looking for.
Okay, so that I can find online. Color is C-O-L-O. I'm sure it's not C-O-L-O-R, is it?
It is. It's
okay.
color. I'll put it in the chat window. It's just color.com, color.com.
Okay.
And the nice thing about color is that, God forbid you do show a genetic
defect,
mutation, that they will test immediate members of your family for $50. I think the cost of the test is $250, but then if you show it, other members can test for $50.
Okay, cool. I'll look that up.
Okay, and they're reliable. They're really good. There's probably somebody on this call that's used color. I've sat in on their genetic counselor. They're very good. I don't have any issues with them, and some of the hospitals use them as well.
Okay.
Anyone else want to say anything to Gaushan?
Yes, I have a question. This is Al. You seem to don't seem to have any problem with traveling here, there, and everywhere during COVID. I've been reluctant to get on an airplane, but you don't seem to have any problem with it.
No, I mean, I make sure I'm all prepared and have proper masks and a 3M P100 mask with the filters and clean everything. But you know, I was not concerned. I flew also from Las Vegas to Portland, so I think just precautions and make sure you do the best that you can. But I'm not so certain things you have to do. I mean, definitely you have to be concerned, but sometimes you have no choice. But knock on wood, I've had no problems.
Okay. So,
and by the way, Taiwan is very safe. It's probably one of the best countries in the world dealing with COVID.
Yeah, we actually said that to you right at the beginning, but I don't think I think you must have stepped away, because I said to you, I've heard that Taiwan is very, very safe.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. That helps my credibility. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Gaushan, recurrent. I'm just making some notes here for my summary. So since we're talking about OHSU, let's go to Jeff Hancock, because Jeff, didn't you say that's where you're getting treated at OHSU?
No, I didn't. That's not exactly what I said. What I said is I wanted to thank all of you, because the first time I was on, I was asking, should I do further testing before we decide on the exact treatment? Since when I did a bone scan and a CT scan, they came back and said, well, it doesn't look like there's any cancer. They couldn't rule it out, but it didn't look like it. So you guys had suggested the PSMA test, if you could find a trial or something like that. And we have a doctor by the name of Baylor that is conducting a trial with the PSMA PET scan at Indiana University Health. And so I got a hold of him and I talked to him, and I've had 2 meetings with him, and my PSA level has gone up. It tripled from the last time. It's still not that high, but it did triple. And so it's enough that I can get into the trial. He's getting me in, and it's supposed to start sometime in December. And I'll do that PSMA test to make, just make sure that where the cancer is probably located. And I think that'll help at least in determining what treatments we're going to take. So, but I wanted to thank you, because if I hadn't been on, I might not have gone through with this. So, I really thank you for that.
That's a pleasure. Where are you going to get this PSMA test?
It's at the Indiana University Health Center. Dr. Baylor, Behler, is the man that's doing the trials. This is one of their trials just ended in, I think it was October, and the next one is due to start sometime in December, and I'm seeing him again on December 2nd, so I'll know the date then when the trial actually starts. So I can get in without having to pay for it. I mean, I guess but after he heard everything and he looked at everything and he had all my records, he said he thought the best idea would be to do the PSMA PET scan first and then decide on what the treatment was going to be. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, keep us posted. Where is your PSA right now?
Oh, it's at only, it's not real high. They just know it's there because it keeps going up, but it's at 0.6 right now. It was at 0.2 in August, and then when I had it done a couple of weeks ago, it was 0.6. So it tripled.
Okay. Anybody like to?
This is Peter. So, yeah, the Indiana one is listed on the website as by invitation only. And
yeah,
it was pretty easy to access it with the doctor. It's not something that's just open to anybody. No, I was just curious.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's invited me because I fit exactly what it is he wants to have in his trial. So he's the one that is in charge of the trial, and he said, yes, you need to be in it, and I will put you in it. And so we're supposed to do it sometime in December.
Right. So, yeah, it occurred to me even for Jim Barnes, it might be a place, if you ever need a PSMA scan, you might want to consult with this guy, because it's right in the middle of Indiana. It's not that far. But it does say that you've got a pretty specific criteria and you've got to meet with him.
Right. Yeah. So, okay.
Peter, since you've opened up the topic, when can we expect this list?
I'll finish it this week. You just got to promise me to keep sending me invitations to more meetings.
Okay. Okay, it is my fault. I take responsibility for delaying Peter.
I will work on it.
For those of you, if you wonder what we're talking about, it was that Peter very graciously offered to put together a list of PSMA scan availability and where, and we're getting close to seeing it because it is a topic that comes up on a very regular basis. And Jeff Hancock, we're delighted that we were able to direct you. It's good news. That's very good news.
It was a big help, and I appreciate it. So very much so.
That's a pleasure. Al, let's go. We've got Al, and then Tony, and then Tracy. Al, let's go to you and get you had some questions, I think.
So I don't know if you remember, I've had prostate cancer now for 25 years. Excuse me.
Wow.
And until about 5 years ago, Lupron and then estrogen plus Avodart were effective, and my PSA was undetectable for like 14 years. It started going up, and Dr. Myers put me on Xtandi, and that worked for roughly another 4 years. I was doing it intermittently. Then that stopped working, and I was on. I've been on Lynparza for a year. I had a BRCA2 mutation, a small one, a very small percentage. So the last time I was, I said that I had an appointment with Dr. Antonarakis at Johns Hopkins. Did I say his name right?
Antonarakis.
Antonarakis. Okay, maybe I'll get that right someday. He looked at my records and he said that I had such a low percentage of the BRCA2 mutation that he was surprised that it worked at all. And it worked well for a year. And then my PSA started going up. And then I was put on Nubeqa. And with Nubeqa, my PSA doubled in 1 month. It went from 13, well, actually more. It went from 13 to 27 in 1 month.
Wow.
So one question I had was, has anyone else been on Nubeqa? Has anyone else had a flare like that with Nubeqa? And then the second part is, so the doctor took me off of the Nubeqa, put me back on Lynparza, and I had a PSA test a couple of days ago, and my PSA was down to 21. So I'm not exactly sure what all this means, and the doctor doesn't know either. I'm just wondering if anybody's had any experience with these kind of, I would call them odd results.
Well, we do have at least 2 guys that are on Nubeqa, so I'll let them start. Which one of you wants to kick off?
I'll start. I'm on Nubeqa. I've been on it for about 14 months, and it's continued to work for me. I believe it hasn't worked for you, Alfred, because most of these androgen receptor blockers are cross-resistant. So if you're resistant to enzalutamide, you're probably going to be resistant to Nubeqa. You're probably going to be resistant to apalutamide and probably even abiraterone. There's a very low percentage of people who fail one of those and then respond significantly to another one.
Yeah.
Well, it responded in reverse. I mean, it shot up. I mean, that was a remarkable increase in 1 month, or 5 weeks actually. Anyway, I stopped it, and I'm back on the Lynparza, and my PSA has gone back down again. Obviously, it's still way too high. I'm interested in Peter's list of where I might go for a PSMA test, because I think I really need to do that. My last scans were in July, and they were negative, but they weren't these high quality scans that there are out now.
And Al, didn't you say that you were going to get that you had a consult with Schultz and Turner?
Yes, I've been using them for the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years. Dr. Turner thought that probably my next step would be to try to go the chemo route. And he said I needed to find a local doc a local oncologist that would work with Schultz and Turner with the chemotherapy. I went to one local place there, and he said, "Well, your numbers don't indicate you should do chemo now." And when I talked with I forgot his name again, Antonarchis. He said my numbers don't indicate chemo now either. I went to see him because he was doing this BAT trial, but he told me it was closed, and they're not doing another one for, I don't know, 6-9 months. He wasn't sure when it might start again. So that really hasn't gone anywhere at the moment.
So, I mean, right now, do you have any idea where the metastasis is? Where have you seen evidence of metastasis in the past?
The last time I saw metastasis was in 2006. I had oh man, I forgot the name of the scan. I had a scan in Cleveland in 2006 that showed a lymph node in my abdomen that was positive. And I went to Totoli in Sarasota and had that area, had that radiated. My PSA did not react to that at all. So, but since then I've had scans off and on, and they've all been negative.
So, I mean, so here's the thing. I mean, I think that the reason they're saying that they don't recommend chemo is because it's not only based on your PSA, it's based on the volume of prostate cancer, and the volume of prostate cancer doesn't appear to be that high at this point in time. That said, Turner and Schultz, that practice is very, very aggressive, as Peter will vouch. And so it's not surprising that they suggested chemo where somebody like Antonarakis or the local guy would not. And my feeling is if you want to do chemo, you've got to ask Turner and Schultz to find you somebody they work with locally in Fort Lauderdale. It shouldn't be your job because you're getting bounced around between the two of these guys, between the two doctors, and they know doctors all the way across the country.
They don't know anybody. They don't know anybody in my area. I think probably the local oncologist would do it if with consulting with Turner and Schultz. If that's where I thought I needed to go. I probably need to get another scan done before I start it, just so I know where I'm at.
Right. Right. Peter, what do you have to say? You're very silent there.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Turner could set you up with a scan at UCLA if you're willing to zip out there for a day. You can do it in one day. You can fly in and out without much trouble. You got to pay for it there. I think it's close to $3,000 now. But he could give you all the contact information. In my situation, that's what I did, and it showed where the action was, and I had to do it. I had to go back to California for a biopsy to determine, what the PSMA scan picked up was indeed prostate cancer. And I had to do exactly what they're suggesting for you. I went through chemo, but I had to find a local doctor here. And 2 out of the 3 local oncologists said the same thing to me, that they don't think I need chemo. So I crossed them off the list and found the one that agreed to work with me. And I'm happy I did.
Well, one of the reasons why, so does anybody know when the PSMA is going to be approved and it's going to be more readily available?
We have a webinar on the 11th, and that will be a big question that we're going to ask 2 experts.
So just to add to that, we are, if you look in the reminder that we sent out, you can register there, but Peter and Len are going to be talking to Scott Tagawa and David Vanderweel from David Vanderweel from UCLA. Scott Tagawa is at Weill Cornell in New York. Scott Tagawa in particular has been doing a lot of trials in the PSMA area. And one of the questions that we're going to ask him will be when they think it's going to get approved. But, we've asked enough of the docs to date and nobody knows. I mean, it should be approved already because the trial results are there, but COVID has thrown a real wrench in the works. Does anybody on this call have any input onto when the PSMA scans are going to be approved?
Recent comment was mid-December with availability in March and April.
Okay. From Paul, is that from Paul Cord?
It was.
Yeah. So there you go. So there's some good input from MD Anderson, from a terrific doc at MD Anderson. But I think everybody feels like they're shooting in the dark here. That's the best and most precise prediction I personally have heard to date.
So how much better is the PSMA scan going to be than the current ones that are available? I mean,
I think it's a lot better. I mean, if you can get it, it's way better. And there are different PSMA scans, and it's not exactly clear which PSMA scan they'll approve, or if they'll approve all of them. There are different radionuclides, but I think a PSMA scan is going to do you better than an Axumin.
Well, the other thing is that the COVID has thrown a monkey wrench into this whole process. I'm a little reluctant to, despite what I heard here tonight, I'm a little reluctant to get on an airplane, go to an airport, go through the airports, go to LAX, come in and out of LAX.
Let me, I have to cut you off because it's already up past the witching hour, but we understand that real well, Al. I think that wherever you've got to go, wherever you're going to get tested, you're probably going to have to travel. So, whether you can find a place close enough that you can drive to from Fort Lauderdale is not easy because, I don't know where, maybe you'd find one at MD Anderson, but then it's still a good haul to get to Houston. So, but we can't help you with that issue, I'm afraid.
So it's kind of a risk reward thing. I mean, I don't have, I have a high PSA, but I don't feel like it's a utter emergency. I don't want to, so I'm just kind of, I'm going to wait for one more PSA test to see what's happening.
Well, I think that's a possibility. And the other thing is to do an Axumin test and see if it picks anything up. Your PSA is high enough.
Well, that's what I was asking, that maybe I should just do an Axumin test because I can do that locally.
Well, that's a good start. And if that doesn't pick anything up, then you can think about a PSMA test.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I know you're over the limit, and I'm beyond my question time. So thank you very much for that input.
Sure. And the last person is Tracy. I think you're the last person.
No, you forgot Tony.
Tony, we'll go to you next, but where are you, Tony? I'm looking for you. Speak up.
Where
again.
am I?
He's there.
I'm in Shady Side, Ohio.
No, I know that, but I can't see you on my screen.
Well, no, that's what I was trying to tell you. I just have a phone. I don't have a computer. I can't do the Zoom call.
I know that, but I don't even see Tony DeBoss in any of my.
Rick. He's there.
He is.
He's there. Yes.
Okay. Well, he's not showing up on mine, but because I was looking for you before and I couldn't see you for some reason. But Tony, you're on. What can we do for you?
Okay. Well, I'll make it quick. What's the difference between? And I don't mean to sound preschool, but man, you guys are all like scholars. What I was going to say is, what's the difference between the PSA test and the PSMA test?
Okay. So the PSA test is a test to see essentially how many prostate cells you have in your body, because prostate cells make PSA, which stands for prostate specific antigen. And it's a test that was originally devised for men who had had their prostate removed. And that should have meant that all the prostate cells had gone from their body, at least at that time. That's all they knew. And so if you had a positive PSA, it meant you had recurrence. And over the years, many, many years, the PSA test has been used for other purposes. But it's an indicator really of the level of disease. Now, the PSMA test is something relatively new. It stands for prostate-specific membrane antigen, and it is another chemical that's made on the surface of the prostate cell. And it so happens that we can get certain radioactive materials to stick to that antigen, and that helps us either identify where those cells are, or in some cases we can treat them. We can actually kill them, although that technology is not what we've been talking about today. What we've been talking about today is using PSMA to find out exactly where the cancer is. And it's most important for men whose disease is recurring.
Okay. And then very good. And then the other thing I wanted to know, well, I made a mistake last time. I told you that my PSA went to a 1.9. No, it wasn't a 1.9. That was my mistake. It was a 0.19, which is a big difference.
Big difference.
Okay, but here's the thing. What I'm really suffering with, I got all the side effects of Lupron. I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. The lethargy, the weight gain, but really what's really getting me is the freaking brain fog. I mean, it's like really, I don't know, man. It's just really getting me mentally screwed up. But the other thing I wanted to say is, I mean, it seems like, I remember you said before, you said, well, Tony, the Lupron really doesn't kill the cancer. It just suppresses your testosterone to keep you in remission. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, well, what it does is it suppresses the testosterone. And if the cancer doesn't have testosterone to feed on, then at least to begin with, it doesn't grow so fast.
Okay, so bottom line is, what designates how often you should get a PET scan?
Okay, Len, I'm bringing you in to talk to your brother here. You're muted. And let me just tell you, before Len unmutes, that Tony, he says his name's Len Sierra, but it's really Skakalossi. And that's too difficult for most people to spell. So this is a landsman of yours. This is a brother of yours that's going to answer you, Tony.
Okay.
So first, let me clarify what the question was. How often do you get a PET scan? Was that the question?
No, what designates, when I started first getting treated with this in September of 2018 with my first Lupron shot, and I get a shot every 3 months, I got a PET scan about a year ago, and it showed that there was no cancer all through my body, not one red blotch anywhere. I was like cancer-free in remission. But what I'm saying is, that was a year ago. Well, what designates to where they say, you know what, you're due for another PET scan just to make sure, or doesn't work that way?
Well, it more or less does work that way, and they will tell you when you should get scanned again, and it will be when your PSA starts rising considerably more than it has so far. At 0.19 PSA, that is too low for any scan to pick up anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and then what was them two other drugs you guys were mentioning? L-glutamine and this other drug. What are those for?
I think you're talking about enzalutamide and apalutamide and
yeah, what's those for?
Those are what they call second-line anti-androgens, and they're used mostly for patients with aggressive Gleason scores, high risk, Gleason 8, 9, and 10. What is your Gleason score, Tony? Do you know?
I haven't had a Gleason score since September of 2018. That's
Well, it
the
doesn't
only
change.
when they finally diagnosed, when they diagnosed me with prostate cancer stage 4, and they did a bone scan, they said it's all through your bones. You have metastatic bone cancer, and then they told me that, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was.
Okay. You said enough, Tony. Tony, you said enough. You should be on one of those second line drugs. You need to talk to your doctor about putting you on a second line anti-androgen in addition to the Lupron. If you're
Are you talking about something like Casedex?
No, something stronger than that. I just gave you the names: enzalutamide, apalutamide, darolutamide, or abiraterone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you say I should be on one of those?
Because if you have stage 4 prostate cancer, Lupron alone eventually will fail, and you're going to have a longer, what we call a longer duration of remission if you go on one of those second line drugs. It's now considered standard of care for someone with your stage of disease.
Okay, and those are also hormone drugs?
Yeah, Tony, let me jump in. This is what we said to you last week, that your doctor should have added one of those drugs or given you chemotherapy back in 2018 when you were diagnosed, and he didn't do it. And that's why we wanted you to go see Appleman through Jim Barnes. Have you made an appointment to see Appleman?
No, but he told me we were talking about that, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay, because you are not, here's the problem, and as you heard today, some of these drugs may make you feel worse. Some of the guys do very well on them. So you've got guys on here like Herb who are doing fine on abiraterone and Lupron, but you've got other guys who had a real tough time. David Muslin had a horrible time on Lupron and enzalutamide. We don't know how much is the Lupron. We don't know how much is the enzalutamide or the abiraterone. But the fact is that the protocol, the standard of care, should have you on another drug. And this is why we told you last week, we really would like to see you on with a different doctor.
And how do you spell those two drugs? Can you do it real quick?
Yes. Abiraterone is ABIRATERONE. Abiraterone.
All right. What's the other one?
And the other one that you could be on, there's a choice of 3, but the one we've been talking about most today is enzalutamide, which is ENZALUTAMIDE.
Okay.
Okay.
Either one of those.
And the common names for those, enzalutamide is Xtandi. That's XTANDI, Xtandi. That's the common name, the commercial name for enzalutamide, and the commercial name for abiraterone is Zytiga, ZYTIGA.
Okay. And well, the whole thing of it, what I can't figure out though, wouldn't my oncologist know this?
Well, that's why we're telling you to find another oncologist, and we said that to you last week.
Yeah,
your
but
oncologist.
But your
oncologist. Right. That's what upset us. So here's the thing, Tony. Your oncologist doesn't specialize in prostate cancer. He hasn't been treating you even to the standard of care. I mean, there's just no excuse for not adding another one of those drugs when you were de novo metastatic in 2018. By then, we knew that Lupron alone was not enough. If you had high volume of metastasis all over your body, he should have given you chemo. If you had low volume of metastasis, he should have given you one of these drugs. But I've just got to tell you, Len, I'm being told that my network connection, I could go, if I cut out, you'll have to finish off the meeting for me.
Okay.
But let's, Tony, I think the best advice we can give you is get an appointment with Appleman. Don't hang about.
Okay, and tell him that I want to go on one of these other drugs.
No, you ask him what he would do. And if he says that's okay, which I don't think he will, then you say to him, well, what about these drugs? We're not doctors. We can only tell you what other people have done. So you need, if he doesn't mention them, then you'll mention them. But don't go in there telling, because he may have other ideas for you.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But you're definitely saying I definitely should be on another drug besides Lupron.
Well, if you look at the guidelines, the National Cancer Center Network guidelines, those guidelines would say that you need to be on another drug. We're not docs. We can only tell you what the guidelines say.
Okay.
They also say,
why is my
let me finish. They also say you should have had some testing, some testing to see if you have any inherited cancers. Has that been done? Have they done any genetic testing for you?
No.
That's the guideline.
Genetic testing.
I had a guy at age 55 die on Wednesday, sadly. Last Wednesday. And he was with a doc that never did genetic testing, as far as we can tell, as far as the patient knew. And it's criminal when they don't do it today, because that's why we have the guidelines.
And are you saying that the genetic cancer, because both of my parents died with cancer.
Right.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, the bottom line is, if I just been getting this Lupron therapy shot every 3 months for the last 2 years, why is my PSA staying so low?
Because it's responding to the Lupron, but it won't do that forever. And at some point it's going to start to climb. And we need to know what sort of cancer did your parents have?
My mom had breast cancer and my dad had a tumor on his bladder.
Okay, well, you need to get tested because there may be drugs out there that can help you. And hopefully Dr. Appleman will say, we're going to do a germline test right away. We're going to do a test for inherited cancer right away.
And you say that there's no way, and like you said too, though, definitely don't stop the Lupron, correct?
Correct.
In other words, that's stupid. That stuff I've been hearing about, that intermittent therapy where you take a break for 6 months so your body can get over these side effects. Well, if you do that, then you got a chance of the cancer coming back, correct?
Well, that's a whole nother discussion that you can have with us and Len, who's done it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You may be a candidate. I don't know. That's for Dr. Appleman to determine. But you may be a candidate at 0.19.
Does the Lupron cause brain fog?
Yes.
Bad?
Yes, the Lupron causes brain fog. Sorry about that.
Frog. Yeah, I don't want to turn into a frog, but no, I see what you're saying. I mean, but like I said, because it just seems like I'm in a dead zone here. I'm like in limbo. Like I'm just taking this Lupron, and my PSA is always real low, and all I have is these side effects. The fatigue is tremendous, man.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
It's David speaking. Question are you doing any exercise?
Yes, I try to.
Okay, because
I was a gym
exercise really helps with the brain fog.
Oh, does it?
Big time. Even if it's just a heart, even if it's just a good walk, it helps with the brain fog big time.
It does.
Yes, yes. And I got to tell you something, you know, all this, and I've been listening to you, and I heard you last week also. You got to go see Appleman. You got to, you know, and he'll guide you. He's the man. You got to go see him.
I got to go see Dr. Appleman. Yeah, that's what.
Yes,
that's
you
what
do.
Jim Barnes was telling. That's what Jim Barnes was telling me. He was telling
you
me
got to
to
go.
see him.
You got to go see him. So go make an appointment and let us know what he says.
Yeah.
Tony, the reason you have all these questions is because you haven't had a oncologist that's actually giving you the answers that you need. And so you need to go to a different oncologist who's really going to give you the full picture, and then you won't be in this limbo. And you taking control of it is going to get you out of that limbo. So
in other words, somebody that specializes in advanced prosthetic cancer that has metastasized to all my bones.
Right, right. You're seeing a big time generalist, and that's not a good thing.
Okay. In other words, you definitely. Well, just one last question. Did you ever hear of a very famous oncologist named Dr. Merrick? He works out of the Schiffman Cancer Center in Wheeling.
No.
Okay. Well, anyhow, it don't matter. He's supposed to be one of the best in the world. But anyhow, this Dr. Appleman, he's not far from me. I mean, I mean, that's Pittsburgh. I could be in Pittsburgh in an hour from where I live.
Go see him and let us know how you do.
You have to see a doctor that specializes in prostate cancer. The gentleman that you mentioned, I've never heard of him. We know most of the doctors in the country who specialize in prostate cancer. There aren't a lot. So get your Italian ass over to Appleman as soon as you can. That's what we told you last week. And that's what we'll tell you next. You've got to do it, Tony. And Tony, it doesn't necessarily, even though you haven't been on this extra drug, Dr. Appleman may say, we'll give you a holiday. You may be in the right place to get a holiday right now. We can't.
What the hell's a holiday? What's a holiday?
Stopping.
Getting off the Lupron.
Getting off the Lupron for a while.
Oh my God, that'd be a miracle because I've been on that for 2 years straight.
Right. So, but you need a better doctor to guide your treatment. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do you know if he's taking new patients?
Let me just say you said the last question. That was the last question. We're not answering anymore. We can't, Tony. We're almost half an hour over. Call up his office.
When do we meet next? Wait a minute. When do you meet next?
Next Tuesday.
At what, 5 o'clock?
No, next Tuesday next Tuesday at 5. No, are you Eastern? Are you on Eastern time?
Yes.
Yes.
6 p.m. Next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted you to realize when you said, I didn't know what you meant what did you mean when you said you couldn't see me?
You got to move on, Tony. We got to move on. Let's go. It's late. We'll see you next.
Okay. Well, go ahead and go. I just didn't know what he meant when he said he couldn't see me.
That's all right. It's not important at all.
On my video on the computer. You're not showing up. Tracy, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
But here's what I would like to say to you, that one of the issues that you want to bring up are really important. And one of the best places to bring them up is in our forum, the Speaking Freely forum.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to attend that, and we'll give you some time here, but please attend the Speaking Freely forum.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing is making sure that I get these things on my calendar, then making notes. So Tony, this may actually help you quite a bit, but routine. What I've really discovered is that one, I've moved past mentally the whole not working thing, And routines help a lot. Exercise helps a lot. I rely on people and my pets to make sure that I take them for walks every day, so as I stick to that routine. And what I've been looking for, I realize coming in at stage 4, I wasn't a 1, a 2, and a 3, and then moved up. I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know because I was feeling relatively fine, and I don't care what medicine I take and what side effects I get, better than dying. And I was just really been trying to figure out what sort of experience am I going to have, and I went to YouTube, and I basically typed in, you know, prostate cancer stage 4 experiences. And there's a lot of information on there of people who actually talk about what they're going through, what medicines are on, when they do it, why they do it, how long, like the time frame. When Alfred said earlier that it was 20 years almost, the first thing it came to me was like, wow, is that 20 years in stage 4? That's like incredible. Or is it like through each stage? So it's all these curious questions that I have about time, and I know it's individual to each person, but that's where I'm kind of at, and I'm playing to my strengths. I like metrics, I like science, biology background, med tech. So I'm slowly, after 2.5 months, really moving into the science of it, and I don't know, just really kind of getting into it.
And so you know what the key thing is too. I'm by myself. I'm basically trying to handle all this by myself. And I tell you what, man, the depression is coming in and it's taking over, and it's really pulling me down. And it's just, I don't know how to deal with this.
So Tony,
you gotta go to the doctor. You gotta go to the doctor, man.
Yeah, I gotta go see Dr. Appelman. I mean, there's no.
Yeah. The more answers you have, the less you're going to be ruminating on this, and you'll have actually something to kind of go and attack, and get your mind around it. So, and obviously Herb's going to talk about the family stuff too. If you need a support group.
Yeah. Do you have anybody who's supporting you, Tony?
No, I don't have a support group. I'm trying to do all this on my own.
Well, do you have a family?
Very limited family. I mean, I have one sister, and I have a niece and a nephew, but I mean, that's it. I mean, that's not much of a support system, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I think that will help you if you had some friends. Talk to your sister.
Yeah, because I don't like walking around with prostate cancer, but I don't like the idea of walking around with prostate cancer stage 4 that spread to my bones, and all I've been getting is this shot of Lupron for the last 2 years, and that's it. I mean, to me, there's something wrong with that picture.
John, this is Peter. Everybody on this call is taking it upon themselves to try to manage their own disease, to try to find the right doctors, to try to get the right kind of care they need. And essentially, that's what we're telling you. You need to take some initiative. And that's why we suggested going to a different doctor. And, Jim Barnes recommended somebody to you, and we concur with that. I think they might be close to election day, but off Wednesday morning and see if we can get an appointment ASAP. And I think it'll make a world of difference for you.
Yeah, because basically, I know what you're saying. Knowledge is power. And the more that I know about this disease, the better I can fight it.
Right, but you need help. You need good medical doctors. I live 2,500 miles away from my medical oncologist. I have to fly from Hawaii to California just to see him. But I do it because he helps me and he's kept me alive for 6 years. So get a good doctor who specializes in this. That's the bottom line. I think we need to get going. I need to get going, and I think everybody else does too. Let's go.
Okay.
Adjourn.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'm going to make that appointment, and I'll talk to you guys next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Well, God bless the audience, man.
All right. Good night, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, as you heard. The November 10th is the next. Let's see. Next Tuesday will be. Somebody help me. Next Tuesday will be the 10th.
And by the way, and then tomorrow, if you haven't voted, vote.
Yes, please. If you haven't
Especially
voted,
those of you, if you live in Arizona, you live in Georgia, you live in Pennsylvania, vote.
Vote. Well, I voted in Arizona. Don't worry. Let me just say that next Tuesday, the 10th, we have a meeting in the afternoon, but that's the morning that Len and Peter are going to be talking to Tagawa and Vanderwell.
The 11th. The 11th.
Oh, is that the 11th?
The 11th. Veterans Day.
I'm screwed up. The 11th. Sorry about that. Okay. That's what happens that's what happens after 2.5 hours. Goodbye, everybody. Good night. Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Stay well.
Bye.
Thank you.